Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. I'm so excited to meet a lot of old friends and new friends because we've been doing that 2 years ago at New York. Now, happy to be back on stage again. So my name is Shengwei. I'm a software engineer at Netflix.
And I'm Rob. I'm also a software engineer at Netflix.
Yeah. Today we are going to talk about the multi-region use case at Netflix. But before that, let me do a kind of quick intro. Who are we? At Netflix, we have a centralized data platform team to handle all the infrastructure engineering things. Specifically, our team is called Online Data Source Team. So we provide multiple data store as a service, like Cassandra as a service, Elasticsearch, EV Cache, that is a Netflix own thing, also RDBMS. CockroachDB is definitely one of the offering. It's pay path offering. When we say pay path, like customer at Netflix, you have a freedom to choose whatever data store you want to use. But if you go with something off the road, you're on your own. The way we did is try to make CockroachDB easier to use for the customer so they can go ahead and do your own things without worry about too much about data storage layer. So the model actually operates is that we have a self-service UI. Customer, if they want to use CockroachDB, just click some button from the UI, then boom, you have the cluster, and you're free to use all the SQL features you want to use. For the platform, we own the operation, but we are not DBAs. We rely heavily on automation. We create our own control plan to take care of the major version upgrade, scaling up, scaling down, instance crash, or even lost coroon issue. I'm sorry, I don't want to mention about lost coroon. This is a nightmare. But you see, that's our daily work. So talking about our use cases. So CRDB has been a productionized pay path solution since 2020. And then now with a couple years evolving, we've been realized that there are a couple use cases can really get benefit from CRDB. One is multi-region capability. Customer, they really want to have an active multi-region, and also surviving regional survival goal is definitely something selling point for them. For other customer, they want to use a high availability data store. So Brian talked about the maintenance window is definitely paying in the other traditional SQL database. So it's not the case in CRDB because I can always do the rolling upgrade. So when I do the major version upgrade, I just send an email to all the customers, hey, I'm going to do that. But almost no one is complaining about the hiccups because we just take care of everything. There are still a handful of customers, they have a huge scale that normal database they cannot support. The CIDB is known for the distributed transaction. You can scale arbitrarily, theoretically, of course. But this is and I know many customers, they're asking, hey, is Netflix storing all this movie data in CIDB? The answer is no, but the CIDB is well known to be used by the content engineering, the studio, and gaming. So Ram will take care of that.
Thank you, Shengwei, for this great introduction. Although Netflix doesn't store movie data, gaming is on the way for Netflix. We're starting to store gaming data on Netflix. So it's kind of cool in that context. So before I go on to the crux of this talk, which is about multi-region, I'll give you an overview of our fleet summary. And we've been giving these talks in RoachFest for the past 2 years, and our fleet has grown by quite a bit over this time. Right now, we have around 380 plus clusters for which Shengwei and I manage on a day-to-day basis, and out of which 160 of them are production cluster. And going to the topic multi-region, we have around 60 odd multi-region clusters, and Netflix operates only primarily on 4 regions: US East 1, US East 2, US West, and US 2. So we kind of give the opportunity for clients to choose how many regions they want to actually deploy into. It could be from 2 to 4, and that's completely based on how tolerant they are to region failovers. Right. So now one of the biggest, again going back to a gaming example, one of our biggest CRDB cluster, which is a 4-region cluster, is CRGB NG Pen, and the gaming team actually owns and operates this cluster, and they store metadata about their entire control plane as a part of this cluster. And this cluster has around close to 48 nodes and spread across 4 regions and we have 3 zones per region. So a lot of nodes. Right? So given that, right, the fundamental question that we want to answer as a database platform team is why do we need multi-region? Right? We kind of try to answer this question bottom up by throwing this question to our customers and ask them, hey, why do you guys need multi-region? Right? And the perspective that a database engineer or database automation platform infrastructure engineering teams would have could be different from how a consumer might think about it. And most consumers thought about this. We want load balancing during traffic evacuation, right? Hey, more nodes can handle more nodes, and that's the that's the outside view of what a multi-region uh, database cluster is for them. And so assume there is a scenario where there's a client here in this example in US West 1 that's down because they're rolling out a new feature and that has a bug. So what client app teams would do is they'll actually evacuate the traffic from US West 1 here to US Central 1. And what they think is that there is an additional region in US Central 1, they can handle more load. And that's one of their fundamental reasons from them to have a multi-region cluster. But that, while that could be true in several NoSQL databases, right? And for CockroachDB, that's not true because for every write and read, you either go to the leaseholder master for reads, and for every write, you actually have a globally consistent view. So you send your writes to every node throughout every region. Right? So in that case, whether you have 1 or 2 regions, it kind of the write traffic is going to be pretty similar. In fact, if you have more regions, you can end up having cross-region traffic, which can harm your performance of the database. So this is very counterintuitive to our customers, and this is something that we have been trying to advocate and educate as a part of our journey hosting CockroachDB within Netflix. Right, so now, why do we want multi-region databases? And the answer is pretty straightforward. We want database side region survivability, right? So if you have more than one region, and if a region goes down, in most cases, the database failover takes down the app along with itself. So all the the entire region is down, and the app side teams will actually take the app traffic from that region and transfer it to the other region. But what they could see is from the database side, absolutely no loss in terms of performance or in terms of availability. They are fully available as if the region failover is completely like agnostic to them. Right? And that's the major selling point for us within Netflix to actually offer for customers to actually go to CockroachDB, right? So now, right, so you use this for a better availability, right? And but what about performance, right? And it comes with its own performance impact because we work on an active setup. So on a default configuration system, there might be some performance hiccups that customers may want to endure as a part of multi-region setup, right? And we as a infrastructure team try to work with customers to actually educate them through this process. So and there are several things that we do to actually help them with that. So for instance, right, one key example is that if you have a multi-region setup, and what if your leaseholder master is in another region, right? So what you end up doing is a cross-region call to actually get the latest copy of the data, which is a performance penalty that we will pay. And one quick win that they can get is by knowing that, hey, if my leaseholder, for this example, is in US Central 1, they can pin their leaseholder to a particular region and make sure app traffic that is confined to that region goes through database connections within US Central 1. By that way, they can get the performance while having multi-region too. So that's one thing that we actually try to advocate our customers to do, right? And there are some customers having some tables or part of their databases that are tolerant to weaker levels of consistency. Right? And those situations, what we advocate is to use follow reads, where although the database client knows that the data is the updated or the most latest copy of the data is in a different region, it takes a slight hit on the staleness of the data and returns the local copy in order to actually serve reads faster. And that's a very common setup that we actually advocate within Netflix, right? So one of the things that we are thinking into, but which we currently do not use, is global tables, right? Several customers, they kind of choose relational databases because of its strong nature consistency, right? Especially with 24.1, they've introduced read committed. So several customers want different levels of consistency, and strongly consistent databases, the one sole reason why they actually go to CockroachDB. So in those situations, right, you can take a slow write by design by optimizing for your local reads, knowing that your client writes are going to be very low, right? And if at all there is a write, it actually goes to every single replica within an entire data center and tries to get an ACK from each of them. And by in that situation, you kind of take a slow write by design, but still get the most latest copy. So and the last one of the last feature that we've been advocating more recently is to actually use a geo-partition database. And similar to leaseholder pinning is that when you have you can actually shard your tables based on or create tables based on region affinity and keep keep client traffic that requires regional tables within that region, so that you have both efficient writes, because writes also goes to the same client traffic, and you get very fast reads, and you still can have a you still can have a multi-region setup, although a slight hit that you may take is on your survivability goals. So these are some of the different multi-region setup that we advocate within our control plane, and I'll hand over the rest of the talk to Shengwei, and he's going to talk about the topology and the future work that we have planned within our control plane.
Thank you, Ram. Hopefully, Ram, your talk didn't scare everyone, because you can see there's so many powerful tuning we can do in CRDB to make customer getting better user experience. On the other hand, think about that without this capability. If you have it's easy for you to tune a single region database, but the problem is all the cross-region costs need to be paid. There's no way for you to optimize that. So, but with CRDB, compared to the single region things, you have so many ways to improve your production traffic. Before I actually talk about topology, let's talk about the real life scenario, the customer interaction. I do believe this might be a kind of similar apply to everyone who are running platform team. So in my dream, in my ideal world, customer come to me saying, this is my use case, and this is my traffic pattern across all the regions. And I want to survive from app failure or DB failure. I'm very clear. I understand what I'm saying. Right? And here is my latency expectation. And I do understand there's a trade-off, the cap theory, I know the consistency and availability cannot be survived at the same time. I have to pay for that to get this. So this is actually in my dream. Don't get me wrong. At Netflix, I'm surrounded by my stunning colleagues. But they have a deep expertise in their own domain. So they are the gaming expertise, right? They handle streaming very well. They know how to produce a great content. But they don't have to be a CRDB expert. In fact, I think it's my fault if they have to be the expert before they using CRDB, right? So then in the reality, as you can see, I'm getting the question, say, Shengwei, I want to have a multi-region RDBMS. And customer, they've been, as you know, on the site, as you know, Netflix has been using Cassandra for decades. So people, they are familiar with how Cassandra is set up and the number of replicas, these things. And people come to me saying, hey, I've been using CRDB. This is not how Cassandra looks like. Ram talked about the app failure versus DB failure. trust me, many of the customers, they've been using multi-region setup just for their app failure until we told them single region can handle your scenario. So this is like daily things happening. So, but how do we handle? I don't have the luxury to talk to all the 200 customers across all Netflix. The better way, the rule of thumb is always go with the default setting and do optimization later. And what is our default setting? Before doing that, let's talk about abstractions. I know CRDB in the later version, we introduced a new way of doing abstraction, is super region or regional by role or the surviving goal, AZ or region. Sorry, I don't know many of terminology because I'm not using them. So Netflix, we adapt CRDB since 2020. And back in that, the best tool for me is zone configurations. So this is for me, it's more human readable because I can easily communicate to our customers saying, hey, this is how many data copies are in this region, how many data copies in that region. It's also machine readable. We share the control plane with many of data storage like Cassandra in EVCache, Elasticsearch, as you mentioned. We have this control plane is called anti-gravity. Weird name, but it's super powerful and useful. So have a single control plane to control all this data store. It's easier for me to do. Zone configuration is definitely one of them. So the downside is it's a little bit harder for customer to do the tuning, but you know what? It's actually a good thing because customer tuning, you don't know what they can do, right? So typically the nightmare started with customer, hey, I know what I'm doing, and in turn out to be not the case. This is an exactly example about how we create a multi-region. So I specify the number of replica as 9, and for each region we will ping number of replica 333. So without losing one region will not cause problem there. And there's a specific least preference. You can ping the leaseholder. I'll talk about that later. So default setup. When you initiate a new multi-region cluster, so if you remember, I talk about the self-service. So in the self-service UI, customer, they can specify, hey, this is my traffic RPS, and this is the number of region I want to deploy it. And we take this information and provision the cluster. By the way, that is page from our Spinnaker. Spinnaker is our continuous delivery platform. It is open source. Netflix has been widely adopted that. So we decide for each region we will have 3 AZ. We will keep one copy in each AZ. So let's say you have 3 regions, and then in total you will have 9 replica because you have a 3 region multiplied by 3 AZ and 1 replica per AZ. So yeah, as I said, it's a shared control plane with other data stores. So it's not a surprise for me to learn this new thing because Cassandra has been used that for a while. And it's also easier to understand for customers. They don't even need to look at the dashboard or hack into the node and look at this Spinnaker page. They know what they to do. We can argue. Of course, many people they may think, hey, why do we need 9 replica? Right? So 5 probably would be good enough. In reality, yes, I do believe this is some further optimization we want to do. But for now, having more replica or having more instance is kind of minimum cost implication because it's easier to, it's cheaper to pay for this hardware than pay the overhead of learning a new thing. So in my own opinion. So how about expanding to new regions? So if you, so Netflix, we recently expand 3 regions to US East 2, then now it's 4 regions. So when we add a new region, the thing is becoming a little bit complicated because if we are following the old pattern, like each region keeps 3 replica, then when you introduce a new region, you will introduce more higher latency or more data. So the strategy we'll be taking is we are only adding the gateway node. By only adding the gateway node, you are not changing the topology of your cluster. So you will still see the same latency, read-write latency from existing region. But for the new region, of course, you have to pay the cross-region latency for both read and write. But it's OK because it's a new region. And you can say, as the traffic growing, definitely you will hitting some point. I have to do further tuning, like creating different partition for a specific region and change the data locality to do the optimization, right? But that can happen always later. So for me, it's easy to only just introduce a gateway node and wait until a customer complain to me. Yeah. OK. This is an interesting use case or example. I have a customer. They want to deploy their application in 4 regions. And the data is geo-shardable. They want to have both low latency and regional survivable. As you can see, it's not 100% achievable. So I told them, and they are very smart. OK, I accept the fact, but can you do a little bit better? The answer is yes. Then you have to pay for at least one, but probably at most one cross-region latency. So this is our setup. Instead of replicating all the data to 4 regions, we firstly shard the data by region. This US East 2 is one shard. We distribute the data to US East 1, US East 2, and US West 2. For each region, we will have 3 replicas. So in that case, when you perform a write, then you will be able to achieve the quorum by only talking to one closed region, right? And when you perform, when you lost a region, that you are able to survive from region failure, because the data has been replicated across all the regions. So this is the things that you actually do hacky things. Further optimization, as I mentioned, we don't have to have 9 replica. We can have 5. But honestly, it's easier for me to communicate to customer. Hey, you have for each data you have a 9 copy, and each region, if you have data in this region, you have 3 replica at least, right? We can always improve if the cost implication becomes huge, becomes significant for me to do further tuning. Yeah. All right. I want to talk a little bit about future work. So abstraction level customer coaching, what that actually means. So if I open up the CRDB, the web page, the documentation, I think fabulous work. I mean, it's very clear for me to understand everything. But on another side, customer, they don't, even with that beautiful doc, customer, they tend to not read any doc. They just try to play something with their own. And how can we make that easier for customer? The abstract level is not from the CIDB part, but from the Netflix side. How can we abstract the Netflix use case? Like say, regional or the traffic evacuation may be has different meaning in Netflix. Right. Surviving Go has different meaning in Netflix. How can I make this abstract easier? So before the customer doing the self-provisioning or during the process of they doing provisioning, they can pick up specific pattern they are going to use, and then I will provide. It's like early optimization. I don't have to do the tuning later because I know this is the Netflix specific traffic pattern. Right. The second thing is, as we are using the CR Labs abstraction, I mean, CR Labs abstraction has been more mature, like a year by year, version by version. We are not using that. We're still using zone configuration. But how can we build a bridge? If there's a way for us to building this to bridge, like on the line, we can still use zone configuration, but in general, we can rely more on this abstraction, and so customer they can do their own tuning. This is something we want to think about. How can we make it easier for customer and easier for me? The control plane improvement for optimization, as I said, because historically we've been sharing all this control plane with all the data stores. So the 3 replica make it easier, but how can we make it also easier when we want to reduce the cost and having a little bit customized setting than other data store? Yeah, that's all the thing I want to talk about. I will stay here for a while, and later for any question. Happy to do the personal interaction. Yeah, thank you for listening. Yeah.